So today, we're going to dive into the story behind a sacred book. And this isn't just any book. It's a text that millions of people believe actually holds the living spirit of a saint. It's a story that really starts with a huge question, a mystery about a man who is still an enigma.
And that question is, who was Shri Sai Baba of Shirdi? He lived in this small village in India way back in the late 1800s and early 1900s. But here's the thing. Even when he was alive, nobody could seem to agree on who he really was.
And that's really the core of the mystery, right? You have these two completely opposite views. On one hand, some people saw him as, well, a mad fakir, a wandering holy man living in a rundown mosque, always talking in riddles. But on the other hand, you have people who saw him as an incarnation of God himself, a divine being, a gem among saints who performed actual miracles. So how can one person be seen in such drastically different ways?
Okay, so let's get into it. First up, who is Sri Sai? We're really going to dig into these conflicting ideas to try and figure this out. And you have to think about who was following him. We're not talking about people who were easily fooled. We're talking about high court judges, top lawyers, university scholars, high-ranking officials. These were the sharpest, most rational minds of their time, and they were completely devoted to him. They left behind these incredible testimonials about his divinity. So you've got these two images that just don't seem to fit together. How do you make sense of it? Well, for millions of his followers, the answer, the key to the whole puzzle, is in one single book, the Satcharitra, the divine book. So the Shirdi Sai Satcharitra, it was written by one of Baba's closest disciples, a man named Govind Rajinath Dabolkar. Baba actually gave him the nickname Hemadpant. And look, this isn't just some biography you'd pick up at a bookstore. For believers, this book is the living, breathing answer to that big question, who was Sai Baba? But think about that for a second. What would push someone to take on such a huge task, writing the life story of a saint? It's not something you just decide to do one Tuesday. As it turns out, the inspiration wasn't a decision at all. It was a miracle. All right, let's set the scene. The year is 1910. The village of Shirdi is gripped by absolute terror. A deadly cholera epidemic is tearing through the community. People are dying, and everyone feels like they could be next. There's just panic everywhere. And right in the middle of all of this chaos, Hemadpant sees Sai Baba doing something, well, just bizarre. He pulls out this old handmill and just starts grinding wheat. And he just keeps going for hours and hours. And you can imagine everyone is thinking the same thing. Why? Why would this holy man who owned nothing, who lived on whatever food people gave him, need wheat flour? It made zero sense. Here they are facing a plague, and he's doing this seemingly pointless task. So some of the village women, they see him working and offer to help. And that's when he finally reveals what he's really doing. He says, "The women think I am grinding wheat. I am grinding the cholera itself and driving it out of the village." Just incredible. He wasn't grinding grain, he was grinding the disease. Then he tells them exactly what to do. He says, "Take this flour I've ground and go sprinkle it all along the borders of the village, like a protective line." And they do it. And then the miracle happens. The cholera epidemic just stops. It vanishes from Shirdi. Now for Hemadpant, seeing this with his own eyes, that was it. That was the moment. This wasn't some madman in a mosque. This was someone with incredible spiritual power. And he realized right then and there that these stories, these miracles, what they call leelas, or divine plays, they had to be written down. They couldn't be lost. But, just because you're inspired doesn't mean it's easy. A whole new challenge popped up for him, a struggle in his own mind. He felt like he couldn't just do it. He needed Baba's blessing. He was just completely overwhelmed with self-doubt. You can almost hear him thinking, who am I to write this? I'm just an ordinary man. Even the holiest of scriptures, the Vedas, couldn't fully describe him. The sheer size of the task, it basically paralyzed him. And then comes the moment that changes everything. Baba sends him a message through another devotee. And the message is basically this: don't you worry about it. I myself will write my own life. You are just the instrument. Just surrender your ego at my feet. Wow. Talk about a divine go-ahead. With that, all of Hemadpant's doubts just melted away. And that blessing right there is what kicked off the incredible legacy of this book.
Just look at this journey. It shows you the dedication involved. So he gets the blessing in 1910. Then in 1918, Baba takes Mahasamadhi, which is when a saint consciously leaves their body. But Hemapant doesn't stop. He spends the next 10 years carefully collecting all these stories, publishing them bit by bit in a magazine, until finally, in 1930, the whole book, the complete Shirdi Sai Satcharitra, is published. And this is the really important part. Why this book means so much to devotees. It's not just some old biography that sits on a shelf collecting dust. No way. For them, it's a living thing. They read it every day, they look to it for answers, they treat it as if Sai Baba himself is right there in the room with them.
Yeah, this really hits the nail on the head. The book is like a bridge through time. It lets all these generations of people who never had a chance to meet Baba in person, feel like they know him, like they can experience his presence. So let's bring it all back to where we started. For the people who read this book, who believe in it, that big question, who was Sai Baba, has a very clear answer. He wasn't just some mysterious fakir. He was God walking on earth. And the Satcharitra, that's the proof. And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about, doesn't it? The story of this book is really all about the power of a legacy. It just makes you wonder, how can a collection of stories, just words in a book, become so powerful that it keeps a person's spirit alive forever?